what I came here for. I have this exact lathe at home that I haven't used in about 6 years because I have another lathe that's nicer. It's called a Robust. Um, and actually, this is the one that I cored. This came out of here. Um, and I did that on my Robust. Um, and I made this small enough so it would fit the way otherwise, because this is only 16, and then I forgot 16, even though this is a little less than 16, this is maybe 15, I still can't get it underneath the banjo. But it doesn't matter. This is already shaped. I shaped this at home. This is all set. I had the chuck. I put everything together at home. And so I would be able to just do this, put it on, and be ready. But this would be the first one. And the thing about coring is you don't just have to have this half circle. You know, this has got a different radius. I got a little flare out here. I got a little undercut here. Now, if I wanted to change this, I could change this a lot. And then when I do the coring, I just allow for that space. I just want to make sure I never come through the wall. You know, because once you come through the wall or go through the bottom, you just wasted a lot of time. But if you don't do that, then you wind up with some nice stuff. Now, this is the small one. This is the small. It's called a woodcut, and this, I'll show you the other one. This is similar to the one-way setup. And one-way is similar. It's got a knife. It goes in. It goes around. It's got support underneath, so it's a little better than this. And then this is the a 3-knife setup. This is really heavy. You don't use 3 knives at the same time. That's the first thing they tell you. And chances are you can't use 3 knives because it's hard to use 1 knife because it likes to jam. You know, so 3 knives, forget about it. But you just don't use 3 knives. So you decide, you know, which knife you want. You know, so this is the big knife, and this is what I use to get this core out. You know, I can actually go bigger than that. I can make a bigger bowl and get a bigger core, and then I can wind up with 4, maybe 5 bowls. And it all depends how thin I want to make them, or how much I care about the wood that I'm trying to save. You know, if I'm just making cores, then who cares? And, you know, give my wall thickness an inch and be happy and stay an inch off the bottom, and it doesn't matter, because I'm still getting, if I end up with 3 bowls, that's 2 more bowls than I would have had if I was just making wood chips. But this one is a really heavy, solid unit. This was their first one, the woodcut. This is the second, and there's a third one that's a little more solid, I guess, and it costs more than a little more money. Yes, you can anytime you want. Yes, that's on a tenon right now. And what's that? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, yeah. I did that at home. It's on dovetail. Um, I had another one at home I was doing this morning. It was cherry. I put it on the straight type of jaws. Um, and it was spinning in those drawers. I was just having a lot of trouble with that. It was spinning. It finally broke the tenon off. But that's because my knife wasn't sharp. I've had a friend been using this for a couple of years, I guess. I don't even know how long, because I don't use it because it's too small for what I need. But I realized that knife was really dull, so I was making a lot of sawdust. And if you're making sawdust, that's a clue that it's dull. Only the top edge. So there's just a sliver of carbide. So you don't never touch the top of the knife. You only sharpen from the underside. And I'll show you about that. But you only sharpen from the underside. And that's what keeps it. But never go up top because it's just a really thin sliver of carbide. And then it works nice. So I got it nice and sharp. So it seems to be working better. In that cherry bowl that I broke the tenon off, there was enough wood down below that I was able to put a big tenon on it and then finish coring it out, and it all worked out. because if it's doing nice, then I go, whoa, I'll say, whoo, he's pretty good. Um, if wait though, I think I'm going to have a problem because I can't go very fast because even though this is round, it's there's some place. I think the hot wood is heavier than the sapwood, and it really wants to make this lathe bounce a lot. And okay, we're good to go again. I, d- I don't like to see that part of me. That's the back of my head, and I can't see the back of my head, and I don't know that it's that bald unless I'm here. But anyway, so it's that 5 1/4. So if I measure from here up to here, I have a wire that I bent for my big knife. It's a stiff wire, so it doesn't move, but it comes up. It's shaped like an H. So if I come up here and come over here, it'll show me right where the bottom of this is going to cut. So I don't ever have to worry about going through. There was a time I was using my level here and trying to do this, and it takes forever. There are a lot easier ways to do things than the way I began doing them. And then the bottom line is you can just measure. I also can measure from here to here. That's 1.5 inches. I know that's 1.5 inches. I was looking for, so if I just back that off, so I know where that 1.5 inches is, boom, right there. So I know that, so I think if you saw that, he keeps telling me I'm supposed to show like this, not like this. Don't you look at it. Let them see. First thing is I bring it. I said, okay, this is about where I want my cut to be. It can be anywhere in here, but that's about where I decided that. That was just a random. I didn't measure. I just, okay, let's set it here. And then I bring the platform up close to the wood. And then I figure out where this is. And once I know this distance, then I lock the tool rest. I lock the banjo. And then I lock this, and this is actually inside. There's a little taper in there, so this is locked, and this helps it from wanting to do a trick like this. And then this tightens up, and this. So it all starts, so I get here, I figure out about where I want to be, this part, and then I lock the whole thing. And then I recheck, because sometimes I'll move stuff around. So this is the small set. That's the big one that I use all the time with the 3 knives. So it's the small one, this one, and then a bigger knife. So that way I can just get really big cores. But you still can get 5.5. That becomes 10, 11 inches. So I can get 11-inch core out of that. So it's 16, 11, and then you could probably get another one. Or 2. It depends how small a bowl you want. Right, I can maybe get 2 of them out of this big knife, and then I would switch to the small knife, and then I could get 1 or 2 more. And again, it depends on how valuable your piece of wood is, how much patience you have. I want to make a bowl, I'm sick of this. And what are you going to do with those little ones? Nobody wants to buy little ones. So I got a bunch of little ones piled up because I don't even want to turn them. They're over there in the corner. But every now and then, if I want something that's dry and done immediately, I just pick up a core. So you don't always have to finish them right away. You just core them and stick them over there. And if they crack, who cares? If you burn wood, now you got a solid piece of wood instead of a bunch of wood chips. So it's advantageous if you have a setup like this, or this one, or the one way, or the knock. And that one's a little harder. There's a learning curve with that one. This one here, it's really not that hard. This is all you're doing. And that's it. So do you want to see this thing spin? Because that's what I can do next. And because this is a little out of balance, I can't pick up my speed very much. Otherwise the lathe starts doing this here. We don't want that. So I already got always go down, empty. My speed is 0 right now. So now I can turn it on. And now I can find a speed that works right. I think I can get around 250. Yeah, around 250. See, now it's starting to move. Starting to move. I think we're going to go to there, about 240. So. Okay, are we ready to go? So now this is basically all you have to do is just jam it in there. and, uh, and watch it stop, because it will stop. And if it doesn't stop, it breaks the tendon off. And I got a small tendon on this right now. It should have been a bigger one. But the bigger chuck is a lot heavier. And because I got to carry all this stuff here, I said, this will work, hopefully. What's that? Right now it's 229. But that's as fast as I can go. I would go a little, well, you don't want to go fast with this anyway. You know, you don't want to do like 1,000 RPMs. You know, it's usually, if I'm at home, I might do around 400. It really wants to go slow because of the way it's cutting. The knife starts to get hot, and you need to clear the chips out, because it's almost like using the Forstner bit. It will build up in there, and then you've got to keep clearing it out and going back in. But now we're going to see if it's going to, if you got your money's worth out of me today. So we're just going nice and slow. And right about now, I got a full width of that cutter. That whole cutter now is cutting. And I've got my hand on the knife, and that eliminates a little bit of the vibration. Doesn't do a lot, or it just makes me feel like it does. I don't really know. But I know I leave the knife on till I get, my hand's here till it gets about 3/4 of the way, or until my hand won't fit. For some reason, I got this habit. And I did a real good job sharpening this tip, because I got nice chips coming out of there. I'm quite pleased. You take your time. It's not something you want to jam in, because as soon as you do, it will jam and stop. The belts will start squealing. So you just take your time. You almost let it feed itself. No, I'm never. Beach was a good choice. It's cutting nice. I'm actually starting to feel like I might get to the bottom. I think it was more exciting doing that cherry at home because it was bouncing and jamming, and I had a rotten spot that went from the outside right into the middle. So as it was going around, it would hit that void, and I think as it hit the void, the tool would jump into that void, and then you would hear it squealing, and then it would be spinning on the chalk. What's that? None. None. I'm just letting it feed itself. You can almost hear it start to labor as you're going in. Um, so I'm just pushing very lightly. I'm just letting it cut itself in, because as soon as you start pushing too hard, it will jam. Um, you can hear that. That's when I'm starting to push a little too hard. So I back off just a bit. And then you'll see the chips pile up, and then you just clear it. If they keep backing out, then just keep going. But you'll see it. They'll start getting a pile there. You hear that? Right. That means I'm pushing a little harder than it wants me to. So it's telling me what to do. All I got to do is listen. And who listens? I don't. I don't listen to people. I listen to my machine at home, because I don't have a radio going. I don't have the TV going. All I have is just my machine going. And because of that, I can hear things that I would never be able to hear. I've been using a lot of punky wood. And I was turning the outside of it, and I keep hearing this bunk, 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 like it's almost like a void there. And I keep looking. I couldn't see it. And then I'd see it. I hear it again, and I stop and I look, and then finally I stopped and I saw what was happening. There was a little crack, but beneath the crack was a void. And what I did is I filled it up with CA glue, but I use a hypodermic needle. I put the CA glue in the needle, and that way I can get down a quarter inch, a half inch into that void and fill that up. Otherwise, had I not listened, I would have not had a nice piece in the end of it. That's the other thing. You can see it slowing down. It's laboring, too. Okay. The only thing I have to do is be able to get the thing out. And I'm getting pretty close, so. Yeah, I know as soon as I go far enough, it's going to fall out. That's just how it works. So I don't know where I am in relation to what's going on in there, but I do know once I get to the end of it, that'll be it. It'll be so close. I'll see that bowl wobble, and then I'll take the hammer and just give it a snap, and then it pops out. And once it pops out, then I'll show you how I put a tenon on. When you start from the middle and come work your way out, you want to do the waist on the smallest bowl because the big bowls are your money bowls. You know, so you don't want to start with small bowls and wind up missing out on the biggest bowl. The bowl's still running true. It's staying in the chuck. I think I'm going to get a face mask like Rick has with a screen. Because right now it's like I'm in a sauna in here. And right now I'm going around the corner is what's happening. I'm going into that end grain, and that's a little more troublesome. That's not bad. I can actually see how, as I'm pushing this in, I can see the lathe slowing down. It bounces. I'm limited to the legs on the lathe. They're wobbly legs. But if I were at home at this time, I would speed it up a little bit. The smaller the diameter, the faster you can go. And I don't have a readout on my lathe, so I never know how fast it's going, other than it's either going too fast or too slow. This one here, I'm looking at the numbers. I said, oh, look at that. I'm down at 200, 220. Okay, that's a good speed, 220. It's really good that it's slipping, because when it slips like that, it's not tearing it out of the chuck. So it's just spinning on the belt. Nice thing about this is whoever cleans up after me, the chips are right there. With that Raleigh Monroe, I had chips everywhere. We're getting really close. And the reason why I know we're getting really close is I'm running on a blade. It loosened up. The, the banjo, that's where all that squealing was coming from. The whole thing was, I'm looking at it, and everything's moving around. So that ain't right. And what's happening is that vibration is making it loosen up. So a good thing to do is always check, make sure everything is tight, especially when you have. There's a little stop there. There was a pile of chips. Ooh, not yet. Oh, I'm at the end. Hopefully. That's too bad. That's too bad. Nope. I'm going to try. Yeah, I see that. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. cut twice. When I moved it in, I moved the blade, and I'm cutting probably about an eighth of an inch off that outside wall. And hopefully by moving it in, that'll get me closer to the center, and then I'll be able to use the hammer. What's that? Oh, the lathe is bouncing. Yeah. Yeah, the wood is a little out of balance. So to pick up the speed, normally at home I would pick up the speed now. But I can't because the club bought a jet and not a robust. Now it's coming. Now it's coming. Almost. I can see it bouncing around. I don't want it to fly out because Paul's got his shorts on. His legs would be a mess. I should be able to get that out of there. I think we can persuade it. Usually they pop right out and they go someplace else. because I haven't used this one, the center here should be closer to the center because my center's already marked, and that's where I was going to show him how I put my new tenon on. So this is where the tenon was to begin with for that big one to bring this one out, and I still have that here. So I'm going to actually flip it around, and then I'll show you how I put that tenon on. But this was too far off the center towards me, and that's why this is such a big hunk of wood, because I went through as far as I could go. So what that was, I hope if you were paying attention, you will never forget where this belongs. It belongs on center. So, the shavings was because I was just taking off a 1/4 inch for that second. So when I moved it in, this wall thickness got a little thinner. And that's where all those shavings were coming from, because it wasn't cutting that full cut. It was just cutting maybe a 1/4 inch, a quarter of the cutting bit itself. And that's why it just blasted through. And that's why I also had to be careful that I didn't jam it in, because every time you jam it in, it wants to stop. So, but I'm going to take this off. Now, if this were at home now, I would just finish this bowl. I would make the outside the way I wanted it, make the inside. In fact, I'm actually going to leave the chuck on, because eventually I'm really glad I brought my little this is a Vic mark. The tape got loose here. This is a Vicmark, and Vicmark has that little adapter. And for some reason, the adapter always wants to. Oh, it got loose that time. It usually breaks on the adapter. There. It's the one I use all the time. And again, that center is the one that I started with the big bowl. And it was with this drive center that I was using. So basically, I'm just going to bring it back in, find that center. And this is not going to be as easy because I tore it all out right there. Sometimes we start doing stuff and decide that's the way we want to do it. And no matter what anybody says, that's how I do it. So basically, I'm just jamming it on those 4 fingers. I want to make sure I'm locking the spindle, pushing it in, and then just making sure it does so. And then we're going to go nice and slow. And now we can turn it on slow. And now we can see it's not very good, so we're going to move it a little bit more. Well, basically, this isn't going to happen. But now you know how I do it. So basically, I always keep my center here. And then I just jam it. Some people will just jam chuck it into the bowl they just pulled it out of and then do it like so. But because of what I did, I've used the crap out of this bowl. It should crack on my way home just to get even with me. But I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do because it's just wobbling too much. And if that were flat there, I wouldn't have it wobbling like so. But I think you got the grasp of what it was I was trying to show you how to do. Yep. On center. Right on center. And I put this one on my lathe at home on center. I put a live center there, and I just, so that way I was able to make sure that my knife was right there on center, and that's where you want it. That's when the, oh no, it doesn't collapse. It has the knives. Okay, I got to get back over here. How's this better? Okay, see this knife? So what I would do, if I want to make the next bowl a little bit smaller, I would just bring the knife, this whole unit with the banjo, I would just move it in a ½ inch or an inch. And now when I can't move it in anymore, then I'll take this knife off and I'll start using this knife. And now, so this one will get me one more bowl, but then I'll go to this knife and it's the same setup. Everything is always the same, it's just a smaller knife. Because you're still limited to what you're doing in that radius. And this is the small one, and then the big one's got the 3 knives. Yeah, it's the same thing. And one way is almost the same, except they've got a support underneath here. So you go in a bit, and then you drive your support underneath a little bit more. And so that way, when I was out there that far out, there's all this. So one way that's not going to happen because there's always a leg underneath here that's holding it up by this cutting edge. So for what? This one? For the small one, yeah. And then that bigger one costs more. And 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 then, and then the one way is even more money. For what reason I don't know, but maybe because they say it's better. Oh, well, yeah, yes. Well, actually, it pays for itself, especially if people are buying your boats. I've got a beautiful set of four, and actually, there was a nice set of nested bowls here last month, and they were really nice. And he made them because he had that corn tool. I just sold one of my bigger bowls. I sold that for a fair amount of money. Now the second one, I'm going to sell that for enough money, and then the other one is just going to be less. But eventually, it will pay for itself if you use it. If I have some tools at home, like I have this jet, I used it for 6 months. I bought it maybe 8 years ago. I used it for 6 months. That's it. Except for today. I used it today. So it didn't pay for itself. It just saved me the money to buy the next lathe up. Because I said, just get the biggest one you can get. And that's when I got the biggest one. So it did save me money in the long run. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay. That's it then.